very interesting and relevant topic for functions in Python, that is variable number of arguments. What if you don't have a specified number of arguments that you want to mention in your function? Just a quick recap. In the last session, we discussed about how do you define functions, right? What are functions and how they are called? What are the benefits of functions? And we looked at certain examples like the calculator, the area calculator function, where you looked at, how do you define it? What are the different ways in which you can define the same function? And what are default arguments? What are keyword arguments? And so on and so forth. Today, we will talk about variable number of arguments. So without any further ado, let us get started. All right. So variable number of arguments. There are mainly two different kinds of variable number of arguments that you can use. You can either use this one, which is starting with a single asterisk and which is called args or args, right? Or you can start with this second type of variable number of arguments, which is double asterisk, and it's called kwargs. Kw stands for keyword, right? So kw stands for keyword and args stands for arguments. So you can have keyword arguments here. So the first one is actually positional arguments. The second one is actually allowing for keyword arguments. And do not worry if you're not understanding this at this point, because you will go into each of these in a lot of detail, right? All right, so what are the benefits of using variable number of arguments? The first benefit is flexibility. You can call the function with a varying number of arguments without modifying the function definition itself. In cases where you're not clear on how many arguments will be passed when the function is called, you can use variable number of arguments to do just that. The second benefit is code reusability. Functions can handle different amounts of data, making them more adaptable, right? So for example, if you're using args, right, the first kind of syntax that we can use, then what you can do is you can give it lots of data, or you could give it just a few values, and we will shortly see how that's helpful. Customizability is the third one. With keyword arguments particularly, you can provide optional data with clear names, enhancing code readability. So basically, you can be more versatile and you can write functions which can be used for multiple purposes with variable number of arguments, and it is kind of a flexibility that you're giving to the system, right? Last time we saw and we discussed about default arguments, we talked about required arguments, we talked about keyword arguments, and we saw how all of those interplayed, right? Now with variable number of arguments, actually you are increasing the flexibility and at the same time the complexity. Let's get started without any further discussion on this introduction. Okay, so first one is the universal addition function, which we are trying to do with this first kind of variable number of arguments using args or arguments, right? And this is mainly for positional arguments. That's something to keep in mind. Positional means that whatever you pass in, right, to the function which has this. So let's look at an example first, and then we will discuss what is positional argument. The syntax is def function underscore name args, and it captures any number of positional arguments passed to the function as a tuple named args, right? This is very, very important to keep in mind. The tuple, it's basically storing all the arguments that you're passing in. And let's see an example for better clarity. Okay, so I'm trying to write a universal addition function and which adds up everything which is passed as arguments. So I'm defining add underscore all, and then I am defining a star, and I'm giving the name to this arguments, which is numbers, right? So numbers will be a tuple which stores everything you give to this function, right? And what this function does is, first thing is there is a docstring, calculates the sum of an arbitrary number of arguments, and then the lines of code which needs to be executed. The first one is total is 0. This is a counter that we are initializing. And then for num in numbers, right, total plus equal to num. So total is 0 for each number in numbers tuple. Basically, the total variable will get incremented by num, right? And that's what this for loop is doing. And then finally, it is returning the total sum, right? So let me run this. Now, how I'm calling it is, I'm saying result is equal to add underscore all brackets, and then I'm passing in three arguments, 1, comma 2, comma 3, right? And these are variable number of arguments, right? You have mentioned 3 here, and you're then printing the sum, which is 6. 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6. Now, in another scenario, I can give it 4 different arguments, that is 10, 20, 30, 40. And now it is adding up all the 4, right? And giving me the result 100. So you can see what is happening, right? You can see that it is adding up all of the positional arguments, and you're getting the results without any error. So that is what this particular syntax helps you do, right? Give it a star and pass in the numbers or pass in the arguments. Now, why is it called positional? So that's what we are going to decode. Why are these positional? And let's say I define like this. Let me change this. Let me make this enumerate numbers. If I is equal to, let's say you are looking at the 4th number, then what you would do is you would return total, else this will keep on happening, right? So let's see what happens here. Add all modified. Now what I will do is I'll just call this function add all modified, and I will give it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It gives me 10. Why does it give me 10? The sum of all of these is not 10, right? So if I just do a sanity check, sum of this is actually 28, right? Why is it giving me 10? Because it's taking the first number, right, which is 1. That is, the index is I is 0. The second number is 2. The I is 1. The third number is 3. The I is 2. The fourth number is 4. The I is 3. And the fifth number is 5, right? And the I is equal to 4. Right? So what this is doing is it's adding up all of these numbers, right? 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 is getting added. 5 is not getting added. Why? Because this if statement is just returning when I is equal to 4, actually total value is equal to 10, right? 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. This is not getting executed when the number is 5. So you're getting 10 as an output, right? And you will see if you just have 3 of these, right, it will give you 6. So this statement, if statement, will not get called, and you will only get the sum of these 3. So the point I'm trying to drive home is positional arguments means that these are ordered, right? This numbers argument, this tuple which is getting created is ordered. So these are all positional. That's why these are called positional arguments. Finally, as a recap, this function uses args to capture any number of numerical arguments passed to this. Inside the function, numbers becomes a tuple containing all the arguments. The function iterates through numbers tuple and calculates the sum. This is about the positional arguments, the variable number of positional arguments. Now let's look at keyword arguments. And this is another very, very interesting way to define variable number of arguments. Keyword arguments, basically the syntax is same, define function name, and then you have 2 asterisks here. So that's the key difference, remember. This number of asterisks actually helps Python identify whether it is a positional argument or whether it is a keyword argument, right? Now the keyword arguments capture any number of keyword arguments passed to the function as a dictionary named kwargs, right? So if you are defining it like this, the name will be kwargs. If you're defining this like says numbers, then the dictionary name will also be numbers, right? Keyword arguments allow you to name the data that you're providing. So this is the difference between positional arguments and keyword arguments. You can call the argument by its name. So keyword arguments are also called named arguments for that matter. Now let's see an example. I'm defining a function, define greet, and I'm passing in this set of keyword arguments, right? Double asterisk info. And the purpose of this function is greet someone with a customizable message based on provided keywords, right? Based on provided keywords, greet someone. So the message variable is defined as hello. And then I'm saying if name in info, what is this doing? This is checking if the info dictionary has a key named name, right? And if it has a key, then you're basically trying to find out the value of that name, right, from that info dictionary. So message plus equal to, and this f string, right? So it's basically adding a string to hello, right? Your initial message is hello, and then message is equal to message plus this f string, right? Remember, because strings are immutable, that's why you have to do message is equal to message plus this new string, right? Which will only get executed if name is there in the keyword argument that you have passed, right? Now, another if statement is getting called if title in info, right? So this is checking if title is there, if the info dictionary has a key named title. Message plus equal to how are you doing today, and then the title, right? And then finally you print the message. So let's run this. Now if you call greet without any argument, it will just print hello, right? It'll just print hello. So it's printing hello. But if you want to give it an argument, right, if you simply do greet, let's say I want to give the name Alice, it will give you a type error. This gives a type error because the function is not designed to take in positional arguments, right? You have defined a positional argument. You're saying that, these are the positions that the argument values should automatically be taken. But here you have not defined any positional arguments. You have only defined keyword arguments, any variable number of keyword arguments as double asterisk info, right? So positional arguments cannot be provided to this function. That is very, very important point, right? So this will not work. This takes 0 positional arguments, but 1 was given. Okay. Now, the right way to pass in the name is greet name is equal to Alice. So this is a keyword argument now because you have given the name of that argument, of that parameter, and you're giving the value as well. And if you do this, name is equal to Alice will get passed into a dictionary called info, and then this code will get executed. So basically it will print hello, and then comma, and then spacebar, and the name, which is Alice. So it is printing hello, comma, Alice. This is what is exactly happening. I hope this is very, very clear. We have gone through it a bit quickly. Let's recap it once again. So if you have a single asterisk and you're defining that within a function, it is a positional set of variable arguments. Variable number of positional arguments are getting defined. If you're using double asterisk, right, inside a function, it is defining a variable number of keyword arguments. And for functions which have variable number of positional arguments, you cannot give, right? You cannot give keyword arguments. So if I give add all modified number is equal to 1, right? This will throw a type error because the function is not defined to take in keyword arguments. And what you have just passed in is a keyword argument. And vice versa, if you're defining a function which can only take in keyword arguments, if you pass in a positional argument like this, greet Alice, this will also not work, right? This will give you a type error. And finally, when you're giving a keyword argument, the way you want to define it is like this. And this is what is getting executed from the code. If this is not clear, make sure you are seeing the function, understanding it in a lot of detail, and then coming back and watching the video after this. Now let's see another example where I'm giving the title as well and the name. So I'm giving it 2 arguments, right? Title is doctor, name is Bob. So now it will say, hello Bob, how are you doing today, doctor? Right? Because the first if statement will get executed, and the second if statement will also get executed, and this will print the message, right? So I hope this is also clear. Now, what would happen if I give it title is equal to doctor, name is equal to Bob, and age is equal to 30? You will get the same output. The reason being, age is equal to 30 will not get called anywhere within the function, right? How we can basically define these kind of functions is whatever is present in the data, right? In the arguments that are getting passed in, you can define if statements to enable execution of that particular code block, right? And this is how you can define and make the function very flexible. So here age is given, but it's not actually part of the function at all, so it will not be used. Finally, as a recap, this function used keyword arguments to capture any number of keyword arguments passed to it. It used double asterisk basically. Inside the function, info becomes a dictionary containing the keyword arguments as keys and their values. The function checks for specific keys, name and title in this example, and constructs a customized greeting message accordingly. Now let's see how you can combine these two methods, right? Or these two syntaxes. The first one, you want to have a positional variable number of positional arguments and variable number of keyword arguments using double asterisk. How do you do that? You can do both of these, right? So define process data, right? Positional arguments and then keyword arguments. So this will process the data with flexibility for both positional and keyword arguments, and I'm just printing it here basically, just printing the values. So if I give process data 1, 2, 3, x is equal to 10, y is equal to hello, it will understand that the first three are positional arguments, right? That will go into this args, and x is equal to 10, y is equal to hello will go into the keyword arguments, and this is what it is printing, right? What would happen if you reverse this structure? If you give keyword arguments first and if you give positional arguments, you will get this error, right? Syntax error, positional argument follows keyword arguments, right? So that is not allowed, right? Let's again just see what would happen if you put keyword arguments here first and like this, right? That will also not help, right? So basically, keyword arguments should always come after positional arguments whenever you are defining when defining variable number of arguments. So this is a key insight. Let me also mention it here. All right. Okay. So this is it for today. One last thing is use caution when you're combining positional and keyword arguments, variable number of arguments. While this offers flexibility, it makes the function less readable, right? Ensure that the purpose of the function and the expected arguments are very, very clear. So this wraps up today's session. We have discussed about variable number of arguments and two different syntax, how you can actually implement these. And also we have looked at a combination of these two syntax. Now, tomorrow what we will do is we will discuss about global versus local variables. That is, we will talk about the variable scope within functions. So stay tuned. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I will get back to you as soon as I can. And make sure you're going over this session again if something is unclear. The notes are also posted. The notes which come from this Jupyter notebook are also posted in the comments. So make sure in the description. So make sure you are watching and understanding that in a lot of detail. And as always, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon if you want to keep watching and being notified of these live sessions as and when they occur. So I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for attending. Bye-bye.